in the lands where the wind cuts like steel and winter claims lives without mercy. A people was born, destined to challenge kings, seas, and gods. The Vikings, insatiable navigators, warriors of burning spirit, children of thunder and ice. They were not a simple culture. They were a race forged in adversity, hardened by centuries of war, honor, and blood. Their names still echo through the halls of Valhalla, where heroes never die. They only await the next battle. Today, you will meet the 10 most feared Viking warriors in history. This is the Immortals, where legends never die. Subscribe and take your place in the ranks of legends. Position number 10, Hastein. Hastein the Trickster Raider. Hastein wasn't a legend. He was a documented threat across Europe and the Mediterranean. And what made him feared wasn't myth. It was the cold, calculated efficiency of his mind. Around 859, Hastein and Bjorn Ironside led nearly 60 ships into the Mediterranean, an enormous Viking fleet for the time big enough to overwhelm ports in minutes and too mobile for any kingdom to pin down. This wasn't exploration. It was a long-range strike campaign. Contemporary chronicles confirm his raids on Nimes, Arles, Malaga, and the Balearic Islands. These were wealthy, heavily defended regions under Frankish, Moorish, and Italian control. And Hastein hit all of them in a single voyage. No other Viking commander covered that much territory, that fast, or with that level of destruction. The infamous fake death trick happened at the fortified city of Luna. Its walls were too strong for a direct assault, so Hastein switched to psychological warfare. He faked illness, then death, requesting a Christian burial inside the city. When the guards let the funeral procession in, Hastein burst from the coffin and killed them on the spot. His men opened the gates from within, and the city fell in hours. What made him feared wasn't just the trick. It was the aftermath. Hastein's forces eliminated most defenders, burned food reserves, and destroyed the port infrastructure. That kind of economic damage broke entire regions for years. On the return journey, he sacked Pisa and several coastal towns. Frankish records describe his raids as relentless and methodical, noting that he rarely repeated the same tactic. He negotiated when it suited him, ambushed when he saw an opening, and used false retreats to draw defenders out and crush them. Even among Vikings, this level of unpredictability was extreme. Hastein didn't rely on brute force. He weaponized confusion, fear, and misdirection. That made him far more dangerous than a typical warlord. Hastein wasn't the strongest Viking he didn't need to be. He was the one enemy you couldn't read, the leader who forced cities to doubt their own defenses and their own judgment. Position number 9, Egil Skallagrimsson. Egil the Berserker Poet. Egil Skallagrimsson earned his fearsome reputation through a mix of raw brutality, unpredictable rage, and a level of intelligence that made him far more dangerous than the average Viking warrior. His violence started young. At 7, he killed an older boy with an axe during a game, shocking everyone with how naturally he resorted to lethal force people learned early. Egil didn't bluff. As an adult, Egil's berserker episodes were the stuff of nightmares. When the rage took over, he fought with inhuman force, breaking shields, smashing helmets, and driving his sword through bone as if it were nothing. In one recorded battle, he killed 11 men by himself before the fight even turned. His enemies described him as wolf-like, silent before striking, uncontrollable once blood was drawn. Even other Vikings avoided provoking him because once Egil picked a target, he would pursue revenge for years. Egil was also feared for his endurance. He survived wounds that should have killed him, deep cuts, broken ribs, spear injuries, and kept fighting. Warriors said he fought like a man who simply refused to die. This made him terrifying in close combat, because every fight with him felt like a death sentence. But what truly set Egil apart was his strategic mind. He wasn't just a brute, he understood politics, alliances, and psychological warfare. He used his poetry to insult rivals publicly, provoke confrontations on his terms, and secure protection from powerful leaders. When King Eric Bloodaxe condemned him to death, Egil manipulated the situation by crafting a perfect praise poem, forcing the king to spare the man he hated most. That ability, to kill with force or survive with intellect, made Egil unpredictable and extremely dangerous. His feuds left a trail of bodies across Iceland and Norway. He killed an entire group of men who ambushed him, slaughtered enemies during property disputes, and fought a series of revenge battles that destabilized whole regions. Families feared crossing him, not just because he would retaliate, but because he would do it with total commitment, no matter how long it took. Position number 8, Bjorn Ragnarsson, Bjorn Ironside. Bjorn Ironside was feared because every kingdom that tried to stop him learned the same lesson. Bjorn didn't break. His reputation grew when he commanded the Seine campaigns from 855 to 858, striking Paris, Chartres, Rouen, and multiple fortified towns. Frankish sources describe the region in panic as Bjorn's forces used shallow draft ships to move deep inland, bypassing defenses the Franks believed were secure towns that refused tribute were burned. Cities that resisted were crushed. Local rulers wrote that no fortifications stopped him, and his name first appeared in records tied directly to disaster. Bjorn's fear factor grew when he pushed farther than most Scandinavians. Medieval accounts describe his massive southern expedition from 859 to 861 AD, hitting the Iberian Peninsula, the Balearic Islands, Al-Andalus, and the North African coast. His fleet of over 60 ships navigated the Strait of Gibraltar, an audacious move into the Muslim-controlled Mediterranean. These were rich cities that had never seen Vikings, and the shock spread his reputation rapidly. He sacked cities like Algeciras and Pisa, demonstrating Viking reach and audacity far from home. More importantly, Bjorn survived the perilous journey. Many fleets perished from storms or disease, but Bjorn kept his force intact long enough to raid, escape a Muslim blockade on his return journey, and sail home laden with treasure. His resilience was another reason he was feared. Near the Camargue, a storm destroyed part of his fleet and Frankish forces attacked immediately. Instead of collapsing, Bjorn regrouped, led an overland breakout, fought through ambushes, and brought survivors back to their ships. Chronicles describe him as impossible to eliminate. His nickname, Ironside, came from surviving wounds, traps, and disasters that killed other leaders. Kings understood that if Bjorn appeared on their coast, defeating him once wasn't enough, because Bjorn Ironside always came back. Position number 7, Eiríkr Haraldsson, Eric Bloodaxe. Eric Bloodaxe became one of the most feared Viking rulers because his rise to power was built on calculated brutality. As a son of Harald Fairhair, he eliminated several of his own brothers during the struggle for succession. Multiple saga sources record that he killed at least 5 of them, a level of internal violence unmatched among Norwegian royal families of the era. His nickname, Bloodaxe, comes directly from these killings, not from legend but from documented fratricide. When he briefly ruled Norway, his reign was marked by harsh taxation, forced loyalty, and violent reprisals against opposition. Contemporary descriptions portray him as a severe, intimidating leader whose presence alone created tension among nobles. His aggressive rule eventually pushed Norway's elite to rebel, forcing Eric into exile. But he did not retreat. Instead, he moved to England and became an even more dangerous figure. In 947, the Northumbrian nobility invited him to take the throne of York. Eric responded with the same ruthless efficiency. He secured the city by force, imposed strict control over its surrounding territories, and punished resistance with executions. Chronicles describe his rule as severe, noting that he destroyed religious sites, seized wealth, and demanded tribute that pushed communities to the edge. One of the events that solidified his fearsome reputation was his attack on King Edred's army. As Edred withdrew south, Eric's forces pursued and struck the rearguard, inflicting what sources call a great slaughter. This ambush reinforced his image as a relentless military leader who struck without warning and showed no mercy. His final years were defined by constant conflict for control of Northumbria. In 954, he was killed in an ambush at Stainmore, likely orchestrated by rival northern lords. His death ended Norse rule in Northumbria, a testament to how destabilizing his presence had become. Eric Bloodaxe was feared because he combined royal ambition with lethal decisiveness. He killed rivals, crushed opposition, ruled through intimidation, and left a trail of violence across 2 kingdoms. His name survived not through exaggeration, but through the very real brutality that shaped his reign. Position number 6. Rollo the Walker. Rollo, known as the Walker, became one of the most feared Viking leaders in Western Europe because of the scale and persistence of the raids he commanded. Unlike small raiding bands, Rollo led large fleets that targeted the Frankish coast with coordinated assaults. His attacks on Rouen and the Seine Valley were devastating operations in which towns were burned, churches looted, and resistors executed, forcing entire communities to flee inland. A major reason he was feared was his role in the 885 to 886 siege of Paris. Rollo commanded a significant Viking contingent responsible for repeated assaults on the city's defenses. His forces built siege engines, tried to break the bridges, and killed defenders who fell into their hands. Chroniclers recorded heavy casualties and widespread destruction as Rollo's men ravaged settlements along the Seine to pressure the capital. After Paris, Rollo continued to advance inland. He led violent attacks on Bayeux, Évreux, and Chartres, taking fortified positions and defeating local forces. In the 911 battle near Chartres, his army inflicted serious losses on the Franks before being forced back, a clash significant enough that it pushed King Charles the Simple toward negotiation instead of continued war. Rollo's fearsome reputation also came from holding territory, not just raiding it. His occupation of Rouen became permanent. He fortified the city, used it as a base for expansion, imposed tribute on surrounding regions, and executed those who resisted his rule. The Franks realized removing him by force would be costly, leading to the Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte, land and recognition in exchange for peace. A kingdom choosing diplomacy over battle shows how dangerous Rollo had become. He proved he could destroy towns, outmaneuver armies, and compel a realm to accept him as a ruler, a legacy built on real fear. Position number 5. Ragnar Lothbrok. Ragnar Lothbrok's reputation comes from a series of real raids attributed to a Viking leader named Ragnar, Reginharus, or Ragnar, recorded in Frankish and English chronicles. He was feared because he led some of the most destructive attacks of the 9th century. In 845, Ragnar commanded a fleet of about 120 ships that sailed up the Seine and struck Paris. The Franks described the assault as violent and systematic. Ragnar's men captured towns along the river, executed defenders, and took hostages to force King Charles the Bald into paying a massive ransom. Contemporary writers blamed Ragnar for widespread burning, pillaging, and the collapse of local defenses. Ragnar also carried out repeated coastal raids on Frisia, striking key trading ports. These attacks targeted wealthy settlements like Dorestad, where his forces killed guards, seized goods, and imposed tribute on the region. His operations were large compared to typical Viking bands, which made him a strategic threat instead of a simple raider. English sources connect Ragnar to early Viking activity in Northumbria. Chronicle entries describe a Danish leader who launched brutal attacks on monasteries and towns, leaving destroyed settlements across the coast. One account reports that Ragnar's men captured Bishop Herefrith's forces and killed them after a failed defense, showing the ruthless treatment of opponents that helped build Ragnar's fearsome reputation. Ragnar's death, as recorded in English tradition, also reinforced his notoriety. According to the Northumbrian accounts, he was captured by King Ella after a failed raid and executed. Whether he was thrown into a pit of snakes or killed by other means, the result was the same. His death triggered a massive reaction. The Great Heathen Army that invaded England in 865 claimed to be avenging Ragnar, and their campaign permanently altered the political structure of the region. Ragnar became feared not because of legend, but because his recorded raids caused real destruction, forced kings to pay ransom, and helped ignite one of the most consequential Viking invasions in British history. Position number 4. Cnut Svensson. Cnut the Great. Cnut the Great was feared across Northern Europe for his combination of military skill, ruthless precision, and relentless ambition. He began his rise in Denmark after his father's death in 1014 and immediately eliminated his rivals there. He later secured his control over Norway in 1028. Demonstrating strategic patience and brutal efficiency, Cnut showed an ability to unite divided forces under his command, forging cohesion in armies operating far from home territory. In England, after King Ethelred's death in 1016, Cnut claimed the throne through conquest and calculated maneuvering. On October 18, 1016, he decisively defeated Edmund Ironside at the Battle of Asandun, killing thousands and executing remaining opposition, seizing estates of resisting nobles. Chroniclers report his troops struck swiftly, punishing towns that resisted and securing submission through fear and overwhelming force. Cnut coordinated fleets capable of striking multiple regions simultaneously, ravaging towns, imposing heavy tribute, and punishing dissenters. Control of the sea allowed him to isolate enemies and prevent reinforcements, making resistance nearly impossible. He established fortified positions along key rivers and coastlines, ensuring any challenge could be met with immediate retaliation. By 1017, he had solidified his control over much of England. He reinforced fear politically, replacing disloyal nobles, confiscating lands, and maintaining loyal earls to enforce rule. In Scandinavia, he controlled Denmark, Norway, and parts of Sweden, ensuring rivals faced coordinated retaliation. Cnut also leveraged alliances with other Viking leaders and English nobles to consolidate power, creating a network of supporters who could act quickly against dissenters. Cnut the Great was feared because he combined ruthless military conquest with strategic governance. Kings, nobles, and armies knew that when Cnut arrived, resistance meant death, defeat, or permanent loss of power. His reputation was not legend. It was built on real battles, systematic killings, and unrelenting expansion of his realm, proving he could dominate both land and sea with unmatched authority. Position number 3. Harald Sigurdsson. Harald Hardrada. Harald Hardrada earned his fearsome reputation through decades of unrelenting warfare, ruthless discipline, and unmatched military skill. Born in 1015, he first gained combat experience as a mercenary in the Byzantine Empire, joining the elite Varangian Guard around 1034. For over a decade, Harald fought in campaigns across the Mediterranean, including Italy and the Balkans, earning recognition for tactical brilliance and brutal efficiency in battle. Chronicles describe him personally leading assaults and executing enemies who resisted. In 1046, Harald returned to Scandinavia and claimed a share of the Norwegian throne. His consolidation of power was marked by violent suppression of rival nobles. By 1047, Harald was the sole ruler of Norway, feared not just for his battlefield skill, but for his willingness to eliminate any who opposed him. Harald's campaigns extended beyond Norway. In 1066, he launched an invasion of England, claiming the English crown. At the Battle of Fulford on September 20th, 1066, he defeated an English force led by Earls Morcar and Edwin, killing thousands. His army advanced toward York, spreading terror through the northern counties. Days later, at the Battle of Stamford Bridge on September 25th, 1066, Harald faced King Harold Godwinson. Despite his tactical expertise, Harold was killed in combat, ending his campaign and marking the close of the Viking Age. Harald Hardrada was feared because he combined battlefield genius with personal ruthlessness. From the Mediterranean to Scandinavia and England, he planned complex campaigns, led from the front, and enforced his authority with deadly precision. His enemies knew that confronting Harold meant facing a commander who had survived countless wars, commanded elite warriors, and killed anyone who resisted him. Harold's legacy was forged in real blood, strategy, and relentless conquest. Position number 2. Sven Haraldsson, Sweyn Forkbeard. Sweyn Forkbeard was feared across Scandinavia and England for his relentless raids, strategic ruthlessness, and ability to dominate both land and sea. Born around 960, he was the son of Harald Bluetooth and inherited a kingdom already forged by conquest, but Sweyn expanded it through calculated aggression. By the 990s, he led coordinated attacks on England, exploiting political instability to devastating effect. Sweyn's first significant raid on England occurred in 991 at the Battle of Maldon. Although he did not achieve total victory, his forces demonstrated the destructive power of Viking fleets, capturing hostages and extracting tribute. Over the next decade, Sweyn mounted repeated campaigns along the English coast. He burned towns, seized wealth, and forced local leaders to submit, leaving communities unable to recover. By 1013, Sweyn escalated his campaign. He invaded southern England with a large fleet, combining land assaults and naval dominance to isolate towns and fortifications. Cities that resisted were looted and defenders executed. His army struck key towns, including Canterbury and London, demonstrating coordination and brutality. Chroniclers describe him as enforcing harsh rule over conquered territories, killing or banishing nobles who refused allegiance. Sweyn's conquest of England culminated in December 1013, when King Ethelred fled to Normandy. Sweyn declared himself king, ruling both Denmark and England until his death in February 1014. Even in death, his campaigns left England destabilized, showing how his fear extended beyond immediate battles to long-term political control. Sweyn Forkbeard was feared because he combined tactical mastery with ruthless enforcement. He could raid, besiege, and dominate entire regions, forcing submission through terror and calculated violence. His enemies knew resistance meant destruction, death, or permanent loss of power. Sweyn's reputation was built on real conquests, relentless raids, and a strategic mind that controlled kingdoms on both sides of the North Sea. Position number 1. Ivar Ragnarsson, Ivar the Boneless. Ivar the Boneless was feared across the British Isles for his strategic genius, ruthless leadership, and ability to command destruction despite severe physical disability. Born around 794, he was reportedly unable to walk, but his disability never limited his influence in warfare. Ivar became one of the principal leaders of the Great Heathen Army, a coalition of Viking warriors who invaded England in 865. Ivar's reputation as a commander stemmed from his unmatched tactical mind. He orchestrated sieges, ambushes, and rapid assaults that allowed his forces to defeat larger Anglo-Saxon armies. One of the earliest victories attributed to him was the capture of Nottingham in 867, where Ivar's coordination and psychological warfare forced the city's defenders into submission. He continued to terrorize England through campaigns in Northumbria, Mercia, and East Anglia. Chronicles report that Ivar's army oversaw the execution of Osbert and Ella, rival kings of Northumbria, in 867 during the takeover of York. According to saga accounts, Ivar inflicted the Blood Eagle, a gruesome torture ritual that, whether a gruesome reality or a terrifying legend, left a mark of terror under his direction. The Great Heathen Army imposed heavy tribute, looted wealth, and destroyed resisting settlements. Ivar's military genius extended beyond the battlefield. He exploited political divisions among Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, forming alliances with disgruntled nobles to destabilize regions from within. His coordination of multiple armies made it nearly impossible for English forces to defend effectively. Communities often surrendered quickly when Ivar was involved, knowing defiance meant destruction, or the same fate as Osbert and Ella Ivar. The Boneless was feared because he combined intelligence, strategic innovation, and ruthless brutality. He did not rely on personal strength, but leveraged leadership, psychological tactics, and precise operations to dominate opponents. From the sieges of York to campaigns across Northumbria and Mercia, Ivar's influence left a trail of devastation. His reputation was forged in real battles, calculated killings, and systematic conquest, cementing his place as one of history's most terrifying Viking leaders. If you enjoyed discovering the most feared Vikings in history, make sure to give this video a like. Leave a comment telling us which warrior shocked you the most. And don't miss our video Top 10 Mythological Warriors in History, now available on our channel.